Instructional Psychology and Technology of the McKay School. I've been here for a number of years, and I'm very honored this morning to introduce our speaker, Barbara Hong. Barbara is a good friend of mine for many years, since our undergraduate days at BYU Hawaii. And she's truly a remarkable individual. Now you can read some of her description in the program, but after we have printed this, then we learned that actually this information is old. It is very limited of all the accomplishments that she has done. And she's a full professor now at BYU Hawaii, not an associate professor. And as you can see here, she has a PhD from Columbia University. But in addition to that, she also has three other graduate degrees from Columbia University. And she is also appointed by the State Department's Bureau of International Information Program as a speaker specialist and expert on disability. And right after this conference, tomorrow morning, she is flying to Washington, D.C. to meet with a number of senators and congressmen to report and lobby for to help them with the correct information in special legislatures. Yeah, and she's a board member of the Council of Exceptional Children. That is the main organization in the world, really, that relates to special education. So now, but when I say remarkable to describe Barbara Hong, these are not actually the things that I have in mind. If you understand where she comes from, that is the most remarkable part, and I hope she'll talk about that. And because in the descriptions that I received in the email, and there are some things that I actually didn't know about Barbara Hong. For example, and she comes from a home where her father was abusive and alcoholic, and her mother was illiterate. And she has been told that she was growing up, she was a garbage head. And that is not a common description for children, right? But, sometimes some of us come from beginnings that are like that. And there are a couple of statements I really like from her description here. She said, or whoever wrote this, once she knew she wasn't the brainless garbage head her mother called her, she began excelling as a student, eventually finding the courage to leave her home and discover her true calling as a knowledge seeker, educator, and advocate. Hong's inspiring journey from a sweatshop home upbringing to influential professor movingly illustrates the true strength of the human spirit and the power of teachers. And so now, this is a little, about her personal background, but her expertise is in special education, and I know that before she came back, before she came here, we have talked about if she would be willing to talk with any individuals, maybe church leaders or educators or just parents who have individual specific needs in your context that you may need some consulting, and she's willing to do that. And she has been very generous, because in Hawaii she has worked with a lot of stake presidents and bishops and the religious society presidents in helping them with the challenge that they may face in the church. And so if you have something specific in mind that relates to those areas, I know Barbara will welcome you to talk to her afterward. And so now I'll turn the time to Barbara.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be here. And also among the crowd, I have some people that came all the way, my teacher assistant, my first teacher assistant at Hawaii, and there's Joyce right there. Joyce is Peter's wife, and we grew up together. So this is a lot of, very exciting and nostalgic thing. And again, I'm not familiar with Utah. I'm not from Provo. I think the last time here was 2003, maybe 2004, but it's exciting to be here. Thank you very much. Again, I I'm kind of stuck here. Or am I supposed to speak through here? Did you want me to speak through here? It's not working. I'm wearing this thing. It doesn't go with my outfit. I say, a guy designed this, not a girl. You gotta match. So is it speaking?
It's just for the camera,
So it's not working.
it's for the camera.
Okay, so I still need to wear this.
Yes.
Okay, got it. So I still need to stand here and speak. Got it. And I want you to feel free to ask me questions. Again, there's no time to, tell you the whole book, and that's why there's a book. But again, sharing a part of the story, and of course you think, oh, there's some discrepancy, hence the book. So you can get the book. Again, I got some copies here. I actually brought more copies, but I've been giving away, so that's what we have. Make it here in an hour. A few copies that I hope you'll be interested that I can give it to you. They are signed, but I'm happy to write a personalized name and note for you. And then there's Jasmine. Jasmine. So you read this character of Jasmine in the book. And Jasmine was a baby that I held in my arm when I babysat. The first baby that I ever learned how to watch, and because her mom helped me to save up for my mission. So that was the Jasmine that I almost didn't recognize. So I haven't seen you forever. Yeah. So thank you. So sometimes people, I'm not used to writing a memoir like that. I'm a scholar, so we write scientific papers, we publish articles. And a lot of time I'm like, well, why do people write a memoir? In fact, there's probably typos in there, because it's just a different way of writing. People write it because they think they have a unique story, but mine is not the case. I find that as I interact with people, there are more commonalities and things that we struggle and things that we go through, that when I share it, I hope that people relate to it and feel, wow, maybe there is a glimpse of hope, that if somebody go through all this and can land on their 2 feet, maybe I can do that as well. And that is the goal. Not so I'm so unique and I achieve all of this, and that's not the purpose of writing this. And again, people ask me about the audience. It is for students, it is for parents, it is for educators, because there are different aspects of it that I talk about, what are the factors that affected me to be where I am. In particular, getting me to write this book, I started off when I was living in the Middle East doing my Fulbright in 2011. So it took 7 years or more. Finally, you get to sit down and you can concentrate and write something. It was very difficult. It's more difficult than you think to try to dig up your past, to try to relate things, to try to recall how you felt. But thank goodness, I had kept journals since I was 12 years old. So keep a journal. And I wrote all of these feelings at that time and the way I interpreted the world and the people around me, and that's where I was able to write this. So in particular, when I was teaching at Penn State, so I taught at Texas A&M, and then I went to Penn State, and I was helping this student, a boy, 23 years old, he's white. His mom had searched me out on the internet and asked me to be his life coach and pays me $70 an hour to help him schedule, plan his life so that he doesn't drink and he finished college. And he kind of well, you will never understand. You are Asian, you went to Columbia, your parents are probably rich, you will never know what is it like to struggle in alcohol. And it dawned on me that, oh my goodness, did you really think all Asians just come in a pre-packaged like that, all good in math, they all look like that? I said, wow, what an interesting thing that that he would think that I'm like that. So I decided to really, put together this. So I'm going to show you some slides to give you a setting. Again, Singapore has been in the news this day, but there's some other things. So when you think of Singapore, you think, wow, it's the biggest Ferris wheel, there's all this, is this thing even working? Can you see? All this beautiful scene. In fact, I have a hard time trying to decide which one do I pick, because that's what people think of. It's clean, it's beautiful, it's sophisticated. In fact, CNN say by the year 2020, there will be more millionaire per capita in Singapore than anywhere else. So super rich people, right? The night scene is even more spectacular. Everything we got to be big, and number one. It's all about that. So I think maybe 5 years ago, Korea airport was number one, and Singapore said, no, we're going to build something that make us number one again. So we're going to have an indoor waterfall, the largest ever in the airport. It's unlike American airport. And if you've been to Hawaii, it's not even an airport at all, okay? So everything is so sophisticated, but that's not where I grew up. And it's not what the tourists see. So is this picture upside down? Can you see? It's the best I could pick. Is that a lot of people live in flats. So in the book I describe what flats are, your equivalent of projects. But a lot of people are poor. It's a young country, and the government will build all of these flats, 10 stories, maybe 15, and nowadays there are more decorations, but back then that's where they house people. And then you park downstairs. So I talk in the book about how we dry clothes. We hang all our clothes outside. So in the scenario in the book, you know, it would be a very lucky day when there's a strong monsoon wind, because the clothes will fall. That means we get free clothes, because you technically can't return them, right? So you don't know whose clothes are those. So you just, you know, whether it's underwear, whether it's a t-shirt, we're like, oh mom, look, we found some clothes, and we just bring them home. It's our clothes for the day. So you pray that some people didn't put the clothespin tight enough, and so we get those free clothes. And this is how we dry clothes, and it's very typical in a lot of places. This is one of those pictures that I found. This is the hallway, the balcony. This is me. This is my sister. My mom is a seamstress, so she sews clothes for us. And the balcony between one house and the other house, and that's it. And the living room is about maybe 300, 400 square feet. Sometimes with vinyl, something you just cover another vinyl over another vinyl over another vinyl. And that's about, so this is not a, this is a generic picture online. I couldn't find any pictures of our family. So it's a very small area that we live in. There are 6 of us in the family, 1 bedroom. And I started off the book with this quote. There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. That sometimes we think of failure, you know, differences, or you know, conditions that we struggle, whatever. It's like, oh, this crack is hurting me. If only I can mend it. Don't try to mend it. There's a reason why there's a crack. So that we all seek to survive. We will find a way. We are built to be resilient, to find a way to survive rather than cave in. So that's the beginning of the book in there by Leonard Cohen. And I also started a book, like I say, it depends on the time and how much time I have. I'll do a little reading. So this goes till 12:30. So maybe I do a little. The first chapter started off with the earliest recollection that I have growing up is that my mom will often gather us, often in the middle of the night, and tell us to, you know, in this chapter beginning she had a tray of chlorine bleach for us to drink so that she would kill us because she's very upset with my father. So my father often doesn't come home, and we know where he is. He's at the bar with the prostitutes. Or I will come home and I say, who is this lady sitting here? And my mom said, it's a prostitute. Well, she's hanging clothes and there's a lady that I don't know. So my mom said, well, you just stay at the hallway until you're done and then you can come in. So it's almost like I am to accept that because I don't understand what's going on at 6, 7 years old, that there's another woman in the house. And we have 1 bedroom, and so the door has, I mean, this is not in the book, but it has got a lot of knife stabs. So there's always knife, you know. My sister is always trying to kill my dad. And there will be, you know, you come home, there will be, or wake up in the middle of the night, there will be police that came to handcuff my dad because he got in an accident or he didn't pay some debt. And so it's just like a daily thing, almost hard to remember a day that we don't try to kill ourselves, or my mom would turn on the gas so that we all sleep, and you know. So every day is like that. Growing up, that's what I remember. This is my mom. This is our refrigerator, and this corner here, right here, there's a stove, but this is the back door here that goes to the toilet, and that's all the room there is to work and do this. So she has all of this. These are pillowcases. So we sew them. So sometimes I know there's protests against sweatshop and all this, but that's how we survive. We have sweatshops so we can make a few cents. And I'm trying to recall, my mom tells me different amounts, she's trying to remember, but we know that we always have to get clothes by a dozen. A dozen we make about, depending, if they're shorts or t-shirts or things like that, 5 cents to 20 or 30 cents per dozen that we cut. So we have to cut a lot in order to have enough to eat for that day. Or we end up drinking water. So we drink a lot of water. Water is cheaper in Singapore, I guess. So when you go to the store and you see clothes that doesn't have any thread on the button or anything, it's because somebody cut those thread off. Somebody snip off so that they look nice and neat. And that's what I do all day long, and help sew, things so that you can have nice clothes in the store. Like I say, as far as I can remember, my dad was always an alcoholic. He finished 6th grade. My mom, like Peter said, is illiterate. When I meant illiterate means she cannot write her names. She has never been to school except, she said she stepped into 2 days of schooling or any kind of formal schooling because her mom had 9 children and they couldn't afford her. So one day she went to a neighbor's place and the mom just said, why don't you just stay here and belong to this auntie? And she never came home after that. She just belonged to another family. And I never understood why. Why don't they just take a bus and go get her or whatever? So she's, in a context, it's like a child slave. She just watched all the other children her whole life. And to this day, she's trying to write her name. She's trying to work on learning. So she learns to sew. And later, eventually, being enthralled, arranged marriage to marry my dad. And I have certain quotes in the book because I find quotes are very special. They give you a sense of your own interpretation of what that means. It could be you, it could be somebody, and with a few words, it tells you a lot about what it is. And let me tell you about my siblings. The last time I saw my brother, Winston, was I was calculating about 15 years ago when he was in a prison. And I've never seen him since. He moved to Hong Kong because he's not allowed to come back to Singapore. And I don't know why. So all I know is I never saw him again. I could hardly find him. But he was a very special brother to me because one time when my mom told us to take a scissors and stab ourselves in the heart, my brother took the scissors away and said that he would kill so that we would be spared. So I remember that, one incident that my brother gave up and was a brother to me. And my second brother, Philip, tried to finish 10th grade, which is your equivalent of 12th grade, but he didn't. My sister also dropped out around that time. So schooling was never a big thing. I'll be lucky if I even finished 6th grade. So I kind of, barely make it through. And the biggest dream that my mother has for any one of us is to work in an office with air conditioning. And now we're freezing in the office like at BYU, so cold, is that is considered very high class, very sophisticated, and only the smartest people get to work in an office with air conditioning. So that was the dream. I always think that, maybe I can be a baker. And I don't bake at all. I just think that's the coolest job, that somebody could bake something that you don't have to go buy, So it's amazing to me. I should learn to cook. And being the 4th child at that time is a fine because Singapore has stopped at 2, right? So the 3rd child will forgive you because it's an accident. But the 4th child, my understanding was it was about $1,000, which was a lot. So the government, Singapore is a fine country. It fines you for everything, right? It fines you. If you haven't seen a t-shirt, it fines you for everything. You don't flush a toilet, you get fined. You pluck a flower, you get fined. Singapore is a fine city. So it fines you for having the 4th child. So the way they punish you is not only financially, is that you are not allowed to go to the better schools. So whatever leftover schools is where you can go to. So my mom struggles in putting me in any schools. And this finally, she got me into school. But let me relate a little passage here for you. So this is going to one school and we're being rejected and being embarrassed. People were sitting outside and this administrative person was saying, well, you should have stopped at 2, you know, you got to learn to control yourself and all of this. But, you know, my dad's an alcoholic, so he does whatever he wants. And while we were walking out, my mom was mumbling something and I don't know what she was saying. So this is me being 7 years old, a little bit 8 because I didn't do well in kindergarten, so I had to repeat again. I was a horrible student. So I was still lagging behind and can't hear what she was saying. What did you say, Mama? I asked again as I tried to catch up. Never mind, medicine didn't work, not aborted. Mama says as she walks even faster. Black market doctor said sure work, but 3 months later, you still came out. I'm 7. I don't know what she's talking about or what abort means. I simply brush off the thought and never bring it up again. But Mama won't let it go, especially when she's upset with Papa or me. I have to suffer whenever I get pregnant. You know, your Papa, he kicks me in the belly, even when I'm with child. Mama moans. I knew he would beat you if you were born, just like he beats your brothers and sister. I tried to get rid of you twice, Mama confesses. You were 6 months inside Mama. Everything was getting so expensive and the government says we'll get fined if we have you. I panic. I drink bitter medicine, horrible tasting ones the back alley so-called physician gave me. Who knows what he puts inside? And then I jump in. I took them all, every sort of toxic. Mama's eyes glances sideways. One of the stronger medicines she drank was highly salty and acidic, and she vomited all day and night. She thought the medicine was working because I stopped kicking, and within days I started to move again, though not as vigorously as before. She wasn't sure if that was a good sign or an omen that I was going to be born with brain damage. You were so stubborn and you wouldn't go away. I kept drinking more medicine, she confesses. I suffered too. My stomach got so painful I thought I was going to die too. It's hard to imagine what she puts herself through to get rid of me. Perhaps those remedies were nothing, old wife's tears, because here I am. So from then on, my mom kept reminding me, don't study too hard because you have a brain damage. If you study more, it's going to explode. So that's, you know, it's just the way my mom talks. And I just fulfill that because I'm not capable of studying. And it comes from your mom. And she cares about you, she loves you, so she doesn't want your brain to explode. So when you feel stressful and tired and stupid, just stop, you know. So I didn't learn to read till 4th grade. I probably didn't even read fluently. And you read about how I struggle. And in Singapore, if you don't do well academically, you get embarrassed. I mean, you will stand up and read in front of everybody, and if you don't do well, you stand up on the chair next to stand on the table. So they embarrass you until you learn it, because that's the reason you're not doing it, is because you're not motivated enough. There cannot be any other reason. So it's very ironic that I do disability, because of course they don't believe in disability. It's all about you. And that's when I joined the church about 10 years old. So how did I join the church? In Singapore, my grandma was dying, and we were so noisy, they couldn't plan the funeral. So we are sent to church, and the closest one is a Mormon church. So go across the street in Bukit Timah, just go to that church, you know. And my aunt was kind of going to that church, so it's like, okay, everybody go to that church, you have to sit down reverently. And they speak English. So we were Methodists before, and we have to attend a church in a language that we don't understand. So if you think sacrament is boring, try attending a church for hours and you don't understand what they're saying. So this is us going there, and I say, wow, the people are really friendly. So that was 10 years old, and I started going to church. But and one of the sweetest thing, again, we are like pioneers, like Joyce and I, we are like the first group of young women. Maybe she's older than me, 2 years. So she's there like 2 years before. But this is all new, you know, people who are in calling are new. This is very, very pioneering. But every Sunday, I make it a point to go to church, because if I don't go, the teacher will not have anybody to teach. And these teachers are not necessarily fluent in English. I don't even remember Georgina Young, you know. I mean, she is as fluent as she could, but she will prepare a lesson. I may not understand it, but she will be there every Sunday for me. So I had to go there so she can do her calling. And that's how I felt. And the importance, and I wrote about the one matter, is the importance of one. And sometimes we think, oh, we want to have this big impact, which is great that teachers can have all this impact and long term. But that one matter, because that one can go deep and can go far. And so don't forget that one person, even you go there, sad to say this, but I was just walking past church last Sunday as there were 2 teachers in this classroom. I said, what are you guys doing? Just sitting around, not teaching a bunch of 7 years old. They say, nobody's here. I said, you have 3 students. Yeah, we're supposed to have 8. They didn't show up, so we're not going to have a lesson. I'm like, there are 3 students there with 2 teachers. It's important, even if it's for 1 student to teach, right? So let me show you a picture of this one. So this is my primary school, which no longer exists. There are bad schools in Singapore, just in case you think they're all top in math and science. Not necessary. So my primary school is demolished, my secondary school is demolished, and then later when I went on, which is your 11th and 12th grade, that school is demolished too because they're all really bad, so they don't exist anymore. But what I can recall from schooling, so I try to find a pictures. I can recall in 3rd grade, my mom bought me 1 set of color pencil. That was the stationery that I remember. And I didn't want to use it because then, you will break it, you will blend. So I tried to color a certain way and keep it for a very long time because that was so special. It was new, it was brand new, it's something that I had. And I tried to find, I remember 2 outings that we ever went to as a family. I don't even remember where. Is this Hauptpavilla? Is it Hauptpavilla? So it's something, so that's my dad, mom, my sister, and that's what I remember. I don't remember ever going anywhere as a family. And I remember one birthday when I was 10 years old, that's a huge cake. So in the book you read about Pearl Lim, who's not a member, but the one friend that helped me in school. The one friend that I keep copying and helping me. And then you read about this girl who my mom babysat, and I was not very nice to her. Okay, I was not very nice to her, so that was a confession right there. And so I thought, oh great, I got these pictures to show. So till this day, I'm still trying to make up because I see the way my mom was not very nice to us as children. I see a way as vindictive. I don't have to be nice to people. If I'm treated like that, the world is not fair. I get to be mean to people as well. And I was mean to the girls that my mom, babysit because her mom was not able to pay. So I feel like we are so poor and we are taking care of you. And many days your mom don't even show up to take you home. So we basically adopted you. And yet you don't pay. So I got really angry with her for no reason. And with all of this, sometimes we wait for that person, right? We build all of this and we guard ourselves because we want to safeguard. And writing this book, like I said, it was difficult because as a professor, do I really want to tell students I wasn't very smart, that I struggle? And I find that people who have read it told me I could relate to it. I thought failure was not acceptable, that it's not good to fail. And I told him my whole book is about failing. We should not be afraid to fail. We should only be afraid if we are not willing to stand up. Even if we are falling, you're falling forward. You're still going ahead. It is through errors and mistakes that we learn what not to do. And in here I talk about Julia, a friend who taught me it's okay. The first time I heard of the word trial and error, what on earth is that we are allowed to have trial and error? See, let's look at this problem. Why is it not working? Why do we solve math this way? And she was the one who helped me that it's okay. But understand, Singapore is a high pressure school. You cannot make a mistake. I remember, my sister has 2 daughters now. Her daughter came home with a result of 98 out of 100. Oh, she was caned because she did not get 100. It's all about perfection. If you are A minus, you must as well just consider that a failure, okay? Because it's an A minus. So I didn't do very well in school, as whatever I try. But Julie, so this is our exam. It's like your equivalent of SAT, or maybe you think it's harder, but it's like the major exam that you take, and we take it at 10th grade. And I flunked. Actually, technically, I don't know if I flunked because I have ABS. You know what that is? I was absent. I didn't even show up. Why bother? I'm gonna fail anyway, wasting my time to sit in an exam, right? Because I'm gonna fail anyway. So I just got an ABS. So technically, I don't know if I failed, but anyway, that was the attitude. And I don't really care about school. I don't really care about anything. And then I turned, at the time, 14. So we have early morning seminary. What is early morning seminary? I mean, whatever it is, our school starts at 7:30. So early morning seminary is 5:45. So we leave the house we wake up about 4 something to get ready. We often have one car that goes around a lot of places to pick up all these kids. The bus doesn't run till 6 o'clock, so you can't even take the bus. So we wake up very early, and it was something that I look forward to. And I'm going to read you a passage here. From my seminary teacher, the first day when he was there, he said, "Oh, Captain, my Captain." Brother Ang, the seminary teacher, stands on the table, and he does that. And in his rolling, husky vocal, reenacts the scene from Dead Poets Society. I didn't understand what all the references or metaphors mean. Later, I learned that Walt Whitman wrote the poem following the death of Abraham Lincoln, and that it was about grief and hope and a promise of a changed future. Brother Ang wears little black glasses and has a slight tummy. He grows increasingly animated as he speaks, to the point where flecks of spit fly out of his mouth. He's unlike any other teacher. I know. From the first day of class, I'm intrigued by his mannerism, the way he talks, the way he asks questions, the way he responds to students, and the way he makes me feel by the end of class. He's passionate about his job, or his calling rather. He loves to teach. He loves to listen to our stories. He loves to help us develop our testimony about God, something I was still doubtful about. Brother Ang had lived in America, where he graduated from Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah. He's the most educated man I know. I can hardly imagine such a thing as going to the United States and earning a university degree. He must be so smart and brave to study with the Americans. The atmosphere in seminary is different from any other learning environment I've known. Learning is fun, inspiring, and non-threatening. I want to pay attention so I can try to answer a question or two. I want to learn even though the subject matter is foreign to me. I enjoy being a part of the class even though I'm quite new to the church. My heart is in my mouth when I raise my hand and respond to a question Brother Ang asked. I don't recall what I said. I know I got it right. Brother Ang smiles and says, "That's a good answer, carefully thought out." Wow, to hear someone, especially a teacher, tells me that I have a good answer is as rare as hen's teeth. This is unlike any reaction I've experienced before at school. I have thought learning was a one-way street where only the teacher speaks. Whatever the reason, I make the deduction all by myself. I actually understand what he's teaching. Maybe the question was easy. Maybe Brother Ang was being nice. Maybe I got lucky. The reason doesn't matter because for the first time, I have a sense of what learning feels like. I want to excel and not just survive. I should give myself a little more credit. Somewhere inside of me is a learning switch that just needs to be turned on. Brother Ang's philosophy of life is about daring to be different, each one of us, daring to be who we are. We don't need to conform to anyone's expectation. Be bold, speak up, have an opinion, be different. That's perhaps the greatest knowledge and lesson Brother Ang teaches me. I am a worthwhile soul, worthy of attention, worthy to be heard, worthy to be taught, worthy to learn, worthy to be happy. Heading to school each morning after seminary with this sense of self-worth and affirmation make a world of difference for me. I still struggle academically, but I disassociate my failure from me as a person. Almost like a time machine, I live out of the old dimension into a new era. I want to be someone who is free and unconstrained by my past. I want to find me. So during the 4-year seminary, I focus on improving not only my self-confidence, but my spiritual relationship with God. I learn to set goals, count my blessings no matter how small they may be, and be of good cheer no matter how chaotic life is. I try to find a better side of me, and at the same time, find another side of me that I hope to become. I start finding fault about my family and my teacher, and start valuing each day as a time to get to know myself and be myself. What a refreshing time as a teenager to find her identity in this time amongst turbulence and uncertainty and the shambles of life. For once, I feel free. And sometimes we feel like, oh, going to church is a routine, doing seminary and all of this. And maybe it's the teacher, maybe it's the student. But for me, it was a teacher who minded that I was there present. And for the first time in 4 years, I finished seminary with 100% attendance. I wanted to get something to a perfection. I wanted to get 100% something. And I was so proud of myself. Maybe nobody cares, but I did something. And sometimes people say, oh, did you go to college and you developed that kind of determination? I said, it wasn't there. It was in seminary that I developed a character to become who I am, to discipline myself to wake up, to never find an excuse. I may not be able to read scriptures well, answer questions, all this, but I'm going to show up no matter what. And that's the important thing. And that itself had helped me to develop the character to be ready in whatever I do. That if this doesn't work out, I'm going to find a way and find a solution. So the becoming of who I am was more important than just a seminary certificate. And in here, I also talk about the difference between a religion teacher and a spiritual teacher. You don't have to be teaching religion, even as a professional, a teacher, K-12, or whatever it is that we do in calling or in public school. Every one of us, and especially we talk about, Brother Wilcox talk about the spirit that we have as LDS. It is very unique. It is very different. We felt it, so it is the spirit that communicates to us. How do we reach the student? I call it an empathetic teaching. I know how the student feels, and we are each endowed with that gift to be able to feel it and to be able to help this child. Like I said, you don't have to be teaching religion. It's not about religion. It's about the spirit. And I hope to work on that in my next book. So I actually went to BYU. So anyway, this is my failure right here. So I went to that part I read to you already. And just so you know, this is Brother a very, very important person in my life that helped me. And he's sitting right here. Yeah. Brother stand up. Wish you could. That's my seminary teacher. And his daughter, Krista. Thank you. Yeah, so very, very special family to me. And for making, and this is the first time he's reading this. And I just gave him the book yesterday. And he finished reading it. So I don't know if that's a good sign, but I hope it's a good sign. I don't know, when students finish reading your book too fast, you worry. Did you actually read it? So again, I wanted to be the first missionary that saved up on my own. I understand that I needed $11,000. I know the church can help and all of this, but I wanted to do something on my own. I really grew a testimony and I wanted to serve a mission. And so I will walk in a lot of places. I make cards, those people know. I become a custodian, I babysit, all of this to make money, and I finally earned my 11,000 Sing dollars, which was a lot of money to go on a mission. And actually I got in trouble because I was unwilling to spend the money. You work so hard, you just don't want to spend. And I was given a special mission rule. I have to eat 3 meals a day. That was my rule because I wasn't using my money. Anyway, moving on, I'm not going to tell you the whole story. So I went on my mission, and what I learned, and why is it that I enjoy teaching and seeing all of this thing. And after my mission, I wasn't sure, well, what do you do? What do people do after mission? I know they get married and everything. But there was this thing about going to BYU, Hawaii. Sorry, we don't talk about Provo. But anyway, it's BYU, Hawaii. We go to BYU, Hawaii, and that's where I went. And in here, I talk about how much time do I have? What's the time here? Oh. Good. I'm going to read you something in here about, I know maybe it's uncommon, we all think of this perfect professor who works in BYU, and all of this. But I talk about, so BYU Hawaii is a small campus with fewer than 2,000 students then. Professors are incredibly personal, that comes with a common faith and shared values within the church, not to mention the prevailing aloha spirit. So my encounter with professors, administrators, and staff is nothing but complimentary and encouraging except for one. So I'm going to tell you. The class is political science. Do we have a political science here? Okay, political science. The professor, whose name I have mercifully forgotten, is a bruised, energetic, balding man in his 50s. He makes jokes often, but they're always American jokes which I can't understand. Everyone is laughing except me. My notebook is scrolled with mess of terms like Congress, elections, senators, electorate, mandates. I draw pictures and check the definition of everything, and I try to make sense of what Professor X is saying, but to no avail. The whole system of the American government is too complicated for a small-time country girl. I went to see Professor X and let him know that I am a diligent student and I'm willing to work my head off to learn the material. If only I have a little bit more information about this foreign term. I believe I can make it and even excel in his class. I have no background on what's the difference between words like state, federal, cities, national, nations, country, counties, and capital, because Singapore only has one city, one state, one capital, and one nation. So the textbook also did not make sense to me. So I went on and talked about this. I went to the professor. I said, could you help me to understand these terms? And so I asked him, what can I do? And he said, I don't have time to explain everything to everyone. If I had to explain to one student, then I probably have to explain to everyone else. I just don't have the time for that. So I leave his office in tears, feeling helpless. I have to drop the class. Dropping a class is a strange concept, just so you know. We never heard of such a thing in Asia. We stick it out whether we like it or not, but apparently you can drop a class. So I didn't know the student can add and drop a class. I can't shake the feeling that I'm a failure. I have started something I can't finish. And remember, at this time, I'm all about finishing it. So I cried for a full day and vowed I would never drop another class, whether I like it or not. And from then on to my doctorate, I've never, ever dropped another class. And I say, I don't know the idiosyncrasy of American professor. Professor X may have his rationale for the way he responded. I just don't get him, or the way he teaches. Each time I run into him on campus, I'm reminded that I'm a loser, a failure, and a dropout. I wish he had taken a little time to get to know me and to understand where I'm coming from and why I ask those stupid questions. I could have found a way to make it through class if he had spared me a few minutes that day. That little bit of background knowledge was all I needed to clarify the structure of the American government. The following semester, I signed up to retake the class from another instructor, Sister Debbie Hartman. She's a part-time instructor working on a master's degree at the University of Hawaii, but extremely knowledgeable about the subject matter and approach to delivery. For a foreign student like myself, I understand everything she teaches. It's the way she makes connection, fathomable and coherent. What is surprising is that at the end of semester, Sister Hartman suggested that I should consider majoring in political science because my result was, surpassed what I say. I'm flattered, but what's defining is the power of one teacher has on a student because she's willing to reframe the content from an outsider's perspective looking in. And that's what I call empathetic teaching. So that was, I love Mark Twain's quote that says, never let education interfere with your learning. So in our mind, we're seeking after degree, taking classes about grades and all this, we do miss learning. Even to today, every semester I will go and attend one class, and I know we are all so free in our time as a professor, but I make sure I attend a class, whether it's a religion class, I will audit class. So even in summer, a spring semester, short semester, I'm auditing a matrix math class just to learn, and I'm terrible in math. We do have Asians who are terrible in math, just so you know. So this is another stereotype that you hear me talk about, that how much I flunk math, and it was the very one teacher who took it on and teach, and it was through math again that I found the love of learning, the very subject that I hated. And I'm going to show you a picture. Maybe you guys recognize this picture. Have you? This is like a night scene kind of thing. Anybody want to make a guess? It's not the temple. It's not a Mormon church. It's in New York City. It's what? I don't know what that is. Is that one Pentagon? It's the St. John Divine. So I'm going to read you this ending part of here, okay? It's been almost 8 years since I made the fateful decision to leave home and come to America. That fall in 2002. I sit in the front of the Cathedral of St. John Divine and hardly believe that I am finally graduating at 30. Seated in the front row, dressed in my heavy grayish blue gown and octagon tasseled cap, I try not to fidget. I spent the whole night ironing my gown and did not want to wrinkle it. The Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences calls my name, Barbara Siu Swan Hong. I walk across the richly carved chancel where the officiating clergy and choir typically sit, except this time there were dozens of faculty members, the board of the trustees, political officers, and distinguished guests, all dressed in formal regalia, and none of whom I recognize. I drape my satin blue hood over my right arm like a freshman butler and hand it to the dean. He and his association looped the hood over my head and presented me with a plaque. Congratulations, Dr. Barbara Hong, the dean solemnly pronounces. The photographer snapped away while I calmly made my way back to my seat. Multitudes of congratulatory praises sound from every parameter, but only one voice stands out. I'm so proud of you. A voice all too familiar from a class I took not so long ago. Dr. Han and his wife had flown from Hawaii to witness this momentous occasion. He embraces me and presents me with a fresh ginger ale all the way from Honolulu. And just to tap here, it's because he knew that my parents will not be there. Nobody will be there for my graduation. Nobody came for my undergrad because my parents don't understand why it's a bachelor degree. So this is a professor who teaches English class and Chinese, and I'm terrible at Chinese. Just so you know, there are Chinese people who are terrible in their language as well. Okay? Right, Joyce? I know she speaks much better than me now. But we all struggle in our second language. And this is a class that is insignificant. It's an elective or a general ed. We just have to take it and it's gone. But this was a professor that it meant so much to him to come to me, and he's not a member of the church, but he teaches at BYU Hawaii and came all the way. So to end, I did not begin my odyssey with an education in mind, but along the way, caring teachers, friends, and even strangers taught me to love myself, love others, and love learning. The footsteps of this expedition has not always been mine alone. The imprints before me, behind me, and mostly beside me have left indelible marks of faith, patience, and fortitude. Likewise, the foundation of my upbringing may not have all been stable, at times difficult, at times unpredictable. But it was the very caring of those around me that lit up a path that I never knew existed. I didn't have foresight into what my life was going to be like when I was 10, 20, 30, or even now. Sometimes I make it at the first shot, sometimes at the 15th shot, but most of the time I stumble through unknowingly, bruised and battered along the way, not understanding why my expedition is exceptionally onerous while others seem to fly through like silver clouds. All I know is that I keep feeling forward, lifting my head up towards God. Somehow a caring hand will come along the way and lift me up, and today I land on both feet. So again, I hope that you take away this, whether as an individual, as a teacher, as a parent, as a calling that you have in touching anybody's life, that you mean something. We all mean something. We did not arrive where we are by doing it all by ourselves. The Lord gave us all our experiences so that one day we can say, I know how you feel. I've been there. Let me share my experience with you. And I live with you this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Can you ask me a question? Yeah. I promise I will not say, read the book. If there's some discrepancy, again, if you guys have signed up, I want, I did bring 20, but apparently it kept going off. And somehow today, of all days, right, you got to be like, yeah, if you have not, and then we're gonna call the numbers. just to let you know, you can go on Amazon and get the book. But this morning, my cousin was trying to buy the book, and he goes, "It says it's out of stock." They said, but Amazon said within 24 hours it will be in stock, but you still put it in the cart and you can still buy it, and it will be delivered. It's just trying to print it. And I do want to leave with you a particular quote. I made this thing, but somehow I didn't bring it. So it says here, don't compare your life to others. There's no comparison between the sun, the moon, and the stars. They shine when it's their time. So your time comes and we shine at different times. And every star is out there. They don't really disappear. So they're out there waiting for their time to shine, right? So this is the website. You can go to barbarahong.com or filling up book and be able to order. But ask me a question first before we do the drawing. Any question? Yes, Joyce.
Barbara, how do you deal with disruptive, misbehaving teenagers in the classroom?
We don't have that. What kind of a planet do you come from? So I have 4 kids. Oh my goodness. Okay. So my son is 22, married, thank goodness. I'm trying to get rid of him. Then I have a 17 in college, and then I have a 15, and I have a 10 going 11 who thinks that he's 22 too. All of this. And one thing I can tell you is that when we wait till, let's say, and I know you didn't do that, like teenagers is hard. People say, but young is a toddler. Teenagers, trust me, at every age they have their package. They come with their own challenges. But what I find are 2 things. Number one, you don't start teaching values at 10 or 20 or even at 8, which is the great thing about the church. You think I'm a child of God with meaning right from nursery. From the moment the child is in your arms and you are teaching those principles. You cannot control what the values out there and what is going to infiltrate into the world. But in terms of research, it has shown that by the time the child is 14 years old, if those values are not ingrained in the child, the power outside is stronger. Same thing. If you have grown up in a difficult situation, whatever, the outside force can change it. At 14, it is not genetic or it's part of the family. It has a great influence that can affect you at 14. And what was my second point? I missed it. I'm going to come back again. I'm going to come back. I have this thought and I totally forgot. Maybe that was my second point. I'll come back to you again. So sorry. Oh, I remember. I was speaking in my last keynote to a bunch of parents, a very large group of parents, and they were all there because they have a child who is under 18 and incarcerated. And they want a solution. And I said, I don't have a solution, but I can tell you, when the next time you go visit your child, and you see your child in their face, what do they see back at you? Do they see anger, unforgiveness, or do they see hope and love and caring? If what they see is anger and all of this, that's exactly what they're going to reflect in their life, and blame and all of that. Or if they go there and they see hope in your eyes and forgiveness and continuing love, that is what they need to love themselves. We cannot give to others what we don't own. You cannot love others and care for others if you do not have a sense of who you are first and care for yourself first. That is just a basic principle. We have to internalize that before we can externalize ourselves. And that's what. And I know that you continue to portray that hope and respecting their agency, but continue to give that hope of love for them. And they see that through your countenance continuously. Yeah, thank you. Yes, sister.
I would wonder from you, how do you teach these principles? So in this context here, where I'm at a high school, it's a privileged area, how do you teach this lack of fear of failure, this resilience to kids who they don't struggle? Like, they get good grades, they have plenty of money.
Fail them a few times, man. Come on, teacher. They need a little spanking. They obviously need to come to Asia school.
Where do we sign them up?
Well, they feel up. In fact, a lot of kids, not even that, they feel a sense of entitlement. Yeah, students could be poor and they feel a sense of entitlement. I'm poor, so you need to give me free lunch. I'm poor, so you need to be nicer to me. And as professor, oh, I'm from a different culture, so I'm entitled to a lower standard, oftentimes. And like I say, none of this is like a scientific solution, but I believe that in caring, it is not about being, oh, warm and fuzzy. I say all those are great, but in caring is that there is a certain fairness and affirmation and quality that I expect. Again, for them is, what is the next thing? You know, sometimes we achieve something, oh, I'm so complacent with my life, I have everything. There is something in there that you can define and redefine. And if you have reached there, try being empathetic, which is a very hard thing to do. Put yourself in another's position, whatever it is, whether it's through a book, through a movie, through a scenario somewhere in there. Somebody could be lonely, whatever it is the scenario is. Being empathetic is very difficult, and that is an emotional struggle. So it's a mental and emotional maturity to step outside of your zone and see yourself in another shoe is what I find often very helpful. And that is that teacher caring that is taken beyond the warm and fuzzy, is to put yourself there. And I find that, yeah, I work with, oh gosh, you know, Kahuku High School is, oh my goodness. You teach a bunch of students with serious emotional disorders, and I was 26 then. I mean, I'm 48 years old now, 26 then. They go, yeah, right, you look like our teacher, you know, imagine. And these are Hawaiians, big, they could beat me up. And it was very difficult. It was like, I could never teach high school again. Oh, a high school teacher, congratulations, you made it. It was one of the toughest things. But having the expectation is not just academic. I expect you to use that privilege and entitlement to become a better person. It's not who you be. You be a lawyer, you be a doctor. It's whom you become that makes a difference. It's not about lawyer, it's about seeking justice. It's not about being a teacher, it's becoming an advocate for what's good. And that becoming is difficult. And that will challenge them. Yeah, and it's a long-term thing. Yeah, so. Thoughts? Yes.
Thought is, sometimes I have kids who are like that, and I tell them.
And you are a teacher, and where do you teach? Tell the audience.
Well, I teach at BYU, I teach at all over, right?
Yeah.
BYU, Hawaii too. But what I told them is that there's a research that went through 200,000 people, and they traced them from high school all the way to older age, right? And find out why they are successful, and pick up this 200 people, and they discover that these people, this group of successful people, they have a more number of failures than others. So I always tell my kids, what's most important is the persistence, number one. That you fail many times, you dare to fail. That's why you can succeed.
Yeah.
Than average people, you fail more than others.
Because in society, let's say, we always seek for that perfection, handing in, there's a certain attribute that you want to get, but it's okay. If it's a mistake, why did you make it? That is the more important thing. And if you know this famous Coleman study where they follow children for 10 years seeing about, you know, African American, what is it that make African Americans successful even though desegregation did not really work? And they find two things. Number one, build the capacity of these people. Number two, provide the opportunities in terms of combining with persistence, that self-determination. So we can call it grit, we can call it resilience, whatever it is. The character is what makes it different. So build your capacity. I give you all the skills, whatever you need, give them the opportunity to practice it, and combining is go on. It's okay, if you fail this test, let's try again. But we give it one shot, that's it, your final exam, that's it. And I know we work with a time frame, but doing your very best, giving all of that is, are we building the capacity and then giving them the opportunity to continue with that persistence? So my research is in self-regulation and self-determination, and we talk about that as well. So okay, so given the time, we are going to be, and I brought 2 boxes of chocolate, obviously not enough, so those of you who are on diet, lactose intolerant, you cannot have nuts, whatever, don't take the chocolate. It's from Hawaii, so I hope they are not melted yet. Let's say I brought some boxes too, but DC is expecting me to give chocolate to people too. I don't know if that's considered bribery, but I'm going to bring chocolate too. And if you have that little cover thing, BYU bookstore had printed it out because people were ordering and they were out of stock, so people had to pre-purchase it. But let's say, you can go online. I deliberately have Amazon price it at a price that people can afford it, because I don't want, it's not a textbook, you know. It's something that $16.50 that people can have it. So let's do the drawing. Richard, could we have you up here? Okay, so if you don't like it, or you like the numbers that he called, so he's going to call numbers, and Chelsea is going to be, and again, like I said, the book has a generic signing, but so Chelsea can distribute. Okay, so you are going to call numbers, and I'm going to tell the name. What number are we going for?
28.
28. Okay, anyway, the number goes to 41. 28 is Kurt Twirling. Oh, there you go. Twirling, sorry. I'm Asian, I can't really say all the names. You have to forgive. And then pass the chocolate. Oh, open the chocolate too. So, next.
33.
33 is Christine Herbal. Yay! Congrats. Okay, next. Some on this, right, this is one.
8.
8 is Melinda McDaniel. Sorry.
13.
Yeah. 13 is, oh my goodness, I really cannot read this. Is it Micah? I really cannot read your last name. There's a church behind it. Which church?
Hey.
There you go. Let's clap for him. Thank you. Okay. We gotta pass this side. The chocolate won't be enough.
Okay.
You can get a book and a chocolate. That's a consolation prize.
5.
5 is Sandra, sorry, it's Sandra Swayze. Thank you. Okay.
40.
40 is Jen Olson. Okay.
1.
1 is Gary, I don't know, Krachek. Okay.
Polish. How many more we go?
How many more? Oh, we got some more. Pick a number.
Pick a number.
If you already called a number. You already called 6, did you? Oh no, Janelle Junker. There you go. Okay, congratulations.
24.
24 is Sean Price. And
35.
35 is Mindy Zemucho. Yeah, oh.
Pick a good date.
Is that it? Oh, 3 more.
3 more, right?
Yeah.
Be careful.
Oh,
Did I pick
they will be honest, they'll tell you. You just pick the number.
37?
37 is Spencer Wow.
Okay, good. 42?
I have 41.
Oh, no.
Did anybody not sign in? That's the 42. Did you
41?
not sign? No. 40. Jen Olson. We already gave Jen.
Okay, did?
Yeah.
Oh, we only have 42? No.
Okay, 2 more.
2 more.
Okay, something from
10? Okay.
10. And Vigilo.
And last one, right?
Last one. Okay.
Last one had to be good. Pick 20.
Celeste Peterson. Oh. Thank you very much. How are we doing in time? Oh, 33. Sorry, went by 3 now. Thank you.
Give a round of applause.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.